Welcome to the Board Game Dojo, where today we are talking about a fighting card game called Combo Trax. It's all about, takes inspiration from those 80s arcade games like Street Fighter and Tekken, turns it into a card game, a one-on-one card game with only one person left standing. Is it a knockout, or does it need to throw in the white towel? Find out on today's Import or Not. Let's go.
I'm not going to go over all the rules to this game, but I do want to give you a basic overview for now. Combo Trax is a shedding game that resembles those 80s, 90s fighting games in the arcade. And so your goal is going to be to deplete your opponent's health. To set up, each player will start with 5 cards in their hand and 16 health cubes. To finish the setup, you want to put 4 cards in the middle row, put the draw pile here, and take out these yellow gauge cubes that are here. Each player will also get a character card that will denote special powers that they can have during the game. Now, during your turn, there are 3 different plays that you can do. The first one, which is the simplest, is just a single card. Note that the lower the card value, the stronger it is. So for example, a 1 is stronger than a 5. The other one would be a pair of cards, like so. The third play is a sequence. Now, a sequence must be at least 3 in a row, but it can of course be more if you have more cards in your hand. Now, there are 2 things to emphasize about these plays. One of which is that the starting player is the one who decides the kind of play that you have. So if I decide as the starting player that we're playing pairs, then my opponent can only play pairs. And we will play pairs back and forth until one person passes. Once somebody passes, this is what happens. They will take damage equal to the lowest value in what the starting player played. So for example, if I won on a pair of 4s, my opponent would take 4 damage. If I did a sequence that looks something like this, with a 3, 4, and 5, they would take 3 damage, because 3 is the lowest value. They would lose that many cubes. In this case, let's say it's the 3. They would lose 3 cubes, and they would take 1 gauge cube, unless they have a special power or something, and then they would get to have the first dibs on this card row here. So let's say that they take this. They can add it to their hand, and they can add it to their hand anywhere that they want. This isn't like Scout or anything. The winning player gets to then take the second pick, and then as a consolation, the losing player gets to have another choice from the card deck. Notice that we're not refilling this row until both players have selected all of their cards. We would then reset the row, and play would start from the player that won the last hand, which would be me in this case. So let's talk about the most exciting part of the play, which is the character powers. Notice that on each character card, there are a set of special powers that your character and only your character can do. In this case, let's take a look at this. It says that if I play a card that is B, A, C in that order, my opponent takes 2 more damage. If I were to play this B, A, C. Notice that I can't do it backwards. I can't have it be C, A, B. But if I play this, then that power is unlocked. And if I can do multiple of them at the same hand, they both set off. So in this case, my opponent, if I play this, would actually take 2 more damage. So instead of the 3 that they lost the first time, they would actually take 5 damage. And now I just knocked out a third of their total health. Play will go back and forth, with the starting player being whoever won the last round, and it going back and forth until one person's health is completely depleted. Then the game is over. Now, we recommend playing this over multiple rounds, but the rules don't specify that you need to do this. You can play however you want. So that's basically how to play. There are much more specific in the translated rulebook that was done online, that was done very well, and it also gives a translation of all of the character cards that include all of the powers. And I will include a link to that below. But for now, let's get to the overall review of what we thought of Combo Trax.
It's quite commendable how well Combo Trax does at what it sets out to do.
which is recreate that feeling that these old school fighters give. At the most superficial level, to put this nicely, minimalistic graphic design that Shinzawa games typically have denote the ABC arrow, which kind of has that punch, kick, jump, directional arrow kind of feeling to it. Almost feels like one of those old books that tell you the cheat codes to Contra or something like that. But at a more deeper level, what it really feels like is this cautiously simple system where there are only a couple things you can do, just kind of like punch and kick, but it's in that allows players to work out how to do that better. The rules get out of the way so that on the forefront, what is there is only the player's skill. And so, in that way, the game asks you to. No, I take that back. It's begging you to play this game a lot. It is asking you to invest your time and energy to explore the different characters, explore the different play styles that they have, and match it to your playstyle. Do you want to go in with a big right hook, or do you want to just do some jabs and just hang in there for a while and wear your opponent down? And in turn, you have to play this a lot of times to borrow a video game term, get good. You are going to slowly increase your ability in this game. Maybe the first couple games you can set off your character's powers a couple of times, and then after that it's in preparing of how to do that and how to do it in a way in which you can set off multiple at the same time, and then after that it's how to bait your opponent into making a mistake. And I think that gets to the next part, which is the name, Combo Trax. I think when I personally think of combos, I always think of how does A get me to do B? Okay, if I do A, then that lets me do B, which lets me do C, which lets me do D. It's this kind of chain reaction, combo-tastic play. But for Combo Trax, I think that the combo system is a little bit different. It's in momentum. Everything in this game is about momentum. What I mean by that is that because this game doesn't have any kind of deck construction system, you're going to have that opening hand. And maybe if it is a good one, you can start off swinging, maybe go for that first round KO. But if it's unlucky, you need to be able to seize the momentum after your opponent makes a mistake. Kind of like Rocky Balboa, take your punches, keep standing, and then wait for them to slip up and come back, take momentum back, and then not let it go. It is in this swinging momentum that works kind of like a pendulum that is where this game lies. It is in how well you can adjust, how well you can take momentum and keep it, and choose when to start it. When is really the best time to start this combo so that you can knock your opponent out. And that is going to be where a majority of your skill increase is going to be is in your ability to play with momentum. And this is something that I think those of you who have played Shedders are going to understand pretty quickly. You're going to be able to read your hand better. You're going to be able to see what you can do and plan out ahead of it. The system isn't exactly revolutionary. There is nothing here that you haven't seen before, and because of that, like I said earlier, the rules get out of your way faster. You're not concentrating and trying to remember what exactly you can do. The only thing you'll do is look at your characters every once in a while just to remember what that character you had picked for that battle can do, maybe their own playstyle. But besides that, it is going to be up to you. But this actually leads to where we're going to turn a little bit to if this game is not going to be for you. Because I think at this point in the review, you probably already know if this game sounds like something you are really going to enjoy. But let me get to a bit of it's going to both cement it that it's going to be for you, or just push you in the direction that it is not going to be for you. And I want to start off with the origin story of Super Smash Bros. Super Smash Bros. Was invented as a counter to games like Tekken, where kids would go to the arcade, and because players had already played these kind of games for years, these kids would go to the arcade who had not played Tekken before, and they would just get beat up in these arcade games, and they would go home not having any fun doing this. The creator of Super Smash Bros. Wanted to create a game that people could just have fun from the get-go. There was items that would help balance it out, which is kind of ironic because I think Smash Brothers is now the longest competitive, like continuously competitive game of all time. But anyway, that was the idea. And Combo Trax kind of goes more towards that Tekken idea where, guess what? If you have this experience with shedders, trick takers, whatever it might be, and you're playing against somebody who doesn't, or at least has less experience than you, they are going to get destroyed. They are, to use a South Park quote,
"You're gonna have a bad time."
The skill level difference, because it is so on the forefront of it, you need to play with somebody who is at a similar skill level. We kind of said a similar thing with Jekyll versus Hyde. We had more fun with it when we were playing against somebody of our own skill level. Both players could have an equally okay time. But with Combo Trax, if you are on two different skill levels, you are playing two very different games. One of which is having a lot of fun, making combos, seizing that momentum, firing off their player powers. The other one just looking on and feeling dejected. Part of this is a psychological thing that we talked about in episode 2 of our podcast, which I will link to the description below, but it's called the endowment effect. And that is that we psychologically feel more hurt losing something than we feel good gaining something. Because of how this game works, that the health points are physical tokens, every health point that you lose feels hurtful, especially if it's multiple. And then over time, if you're doing nothing but losing these health tokens over and over and over again and not getting the other one, yes, sure, you are gaining something in the gauge, but that addition doesn't feel as good as losing continuously these health points feels bad. And it makes it feel bad to lose. It is not fun to lose this game. And even if you're on the same skill level, it really can just be demotivating when you lose this game. That is to say that this game is going to be polarizing. And you've already seen that in used game stores in Japan. It is very rare to see Shinzawa games in used game stores. Usually once people have it, they keep it. Or if they decide to get rid of it, they will be able to sell it for an inflated price. But what's been interesting about Combo Trax is that I have found it in a bunch of used game stores. And in addition to that, the prices are actually reasonable or at the same level that I bought it for or even lower. And what that tells me, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but what I'm reading from that is that this is going to be probably the most polarizing Shinzawa game we've had yet. There are going to be people that love this, and I'm sure if you're watching this video getting excited about the fact that you can show off your skills in shedding, you can go against one other person and just play this game 10, 20, 30 times together and get better at this game together, then this game is going to be for you. You are going to love this game. There are so many characters to play with that incorporate different play styles. You are going to have a lot of fun with this. But just as many people who are feeling that excited about this game are going to be completely turned off by this game. This game is exactly the opposite of what they want to have. And I think it mostly comes down to what you're looking for in a card game. This is going to much more be for the people who are experienced in the genre, who want a new challenge, and they want to take on a new challenge with somebody that they're close to, somebody they already play with. That this feels like the exact right game for them. There's not enough copies spreading around that you're just going to have a big game group with it. This is not going to be the next Sakura Arms, I don't think. This is just going to be a game where you can import this and decide with one other player that you want to play it for the next month. And this is all you're going to do for the next month. You're just going to increase your skills. You're going to play against each other and then maybe pass it on. This is that kind of game. This is not the kind of game that you play to... This is not exactly, I think, the best wording for it, but it's what I'm going to use. This is not a game that you turn to for its funness factor. The fun is in the challenge. The fun is in the exploration. The fun is in if you feel that the enjoyment of games is in that slow progression of getting better. It is that in a month, you're going to see the difference between how you play then and what you're doing now. If that is your idea of fun, this is going to be it. But if your idea of fun is laughter, if your idea of fun is to feel good when you're playing a game, right from the get-go, this is not going to be it. And I think because of that, it is time for the kind of wrap up of where this is. And I think you might know where the conclusion is going to fall. Usually, when we do games on the Board Game Dojo, we like to pick games in which we have some kind of consistent feeling on. It is nice to say that, okay, my wife and I both agree that this game is good, or we both agree that this game is a little bit overhyped and you probably don't need it. And then we give a star and then we feel good about ourselves and then we move on to the next video. But this game is really a split. My wife hates this game. She is experienced enough that she's played games like Scout and she's played lots of Trick Takers. So she has some experience with the genre, but she just hated this game. It just wasn't her thing. She didn't have any fun with it. From the word go, she wasn't really able to put together combos, and because of it, there was no enjoyment factor for her. And I don't really need to explain it any more than that. This isn't that kind of game. And for a lot of people, like I said earlier, this just isn't going to be for them. For me, I can't say that I loved it. I really can't. I can see so much promise in it. I can see where the game is probably going to be so good for so many people. Even more than Nana, which is a game that we reviewed way early, almost 10 months ago, where we talked about, this game is really popular with a lot of people, but I don't really know what's going on. This one, I can see how people will enjoy this game. I can picture who this game is going to be for. And if you're out there and you're thinking about, hey, I think this game might be for me, it definitely is going to. But I don't think I'm the intended audience for this. I like exploration as much as the next people. I like Spirit Island. I like playing with all the different spirits. I like playing Root, and I like doing all the different factions. Those are fun to me. But from the get-go, from the first game I play as those characters, I can immediately have fun with it. I can immediately enjoy it. I can immediately fire off the powers that I'm supposed to and feel like that spirit. In this game, the first couple times I play with a new character, I don't really get any sense of it. I'm losing something there. And there is something tantalizing for sure about if I can just get better at this game, then maybe I can fire off their powers more. But I'm going to be honest with you, I'm just too impatient for it. I want to enjoy the game from the first time, and this is not a game that I can do that with. While I can appreciate the design, I think it's not a bad game by any means. I think it's a good game, in fact. I just think that there's a caveat there where my wife and I are just not the intended audience for this game. The intended audience was for people who want a challenge, who want to have a lifestyle game, as it's called, where they can play this game for a month straight and enjoy it, challenge it, get better at it, and then move on. And because of that, though, we are going to give it a 1 star, which means that we are saying that if this is up your alley, we do recommend the import. I think it really is a good game. There is an interesting design element there where the rules just get out of the way really quickly and let you, the player, shine. And I love that. But usually for Shinzawa games, the time and effort is spent finding the game, and especially finding the game when it's not an obnoxiously obscene price. But for this one, it's not going to be that. For this one, the time and effort is going to be in the actual playing of the game and finding the enjoyment, finding the depth of the game itself. That's where you're going to spend a lot of the time and effort. And if that sounds like something that you enjoy, then, like I said, we recommend the import for this one. It is an interesting design, and again, we have to commend just how well it pulls off with a minimal graphic design thing, how well this feels like an old school fighter. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you enjoyed the content, please, please, please like and subscribe. We're trying to grow the channel as much as possible, and check out our podcast if you want to learn more about science and history of board games and the people who play them, and some quick board game reviews from time to time. Thank you so much. ありがとうございました。じゃあねー。